Hello and welcome to the I Must Ask You a Question show. I'm Tim Nichols.
And I'm Jim Bardwell. Unfortunately, a slightly peaked version of Jim Bardwell. I don't have my ring light, ladies and gentlemen. What is Jim going to do without his ring light?
That is all right. We'll make it work without it. And I appreciate you being with us today, Jim. And audience, it's so good to have you with us. Today, we're going to talk about winterizing your sales pipeline and what that looks like. I've been listening to Jim Rohn lately, and he would talk about how people say, what do I do when winter comes? And when is that going to happen? When will I experience a downturn? And something he always said was, you never know when the seasons will change, but one thing that we do know, the seasons will change. And so we just have to be prepared for that. So that's why I wanted to cover the topic that we are today. Jim, what are your original thoughts on what winterizing your sales pipelines look like? We talked a little bit about it earlier.
Yeah, it's a funny topic. Again, as I always am, Tim, I've got to be transparent and open with you and those that might listen to this. I've got mixed feelings about that thought process. I don't know how many Game of Thrones fans are out there, but that program Game of Thrones, some people have, it's been racy for some folks, but it was great. It was there was some things to be learned by anything, and certainly one of the catchphrases of that show was "Winter is coming." Winter is coming, right? They were running around and everybody was trying to warn everybody, winter is coming, winter is coming. Some folks listened, some folks didn't. Some folks prepared, some folks didn't, right? But the bottom line is winter is coming. And what I think the deeper thing, and I think Mr. Rome was correct, is, whether it comes in December or whether it comes in July, your winter is coming. We all have a winter, and sales cycles, and this year that's been thrown into a tizzy. Our winter came in March. Right? Our winter came in April. We were supposed to be coming out of winter. Man, all of our winters came in April. And so I think there's a deeper thing here. And I think you touched on that, Tim, that we've all got to be preparing for winter. We've all got to be preparing for a time in our business to go through a cool cycle, right? There's a hot time and a slow time. There's a high cotton and no cotton. There's always these things, and it's a big circle. And you had some great ideas of how people can winter, right? How people can get through a storm or a season that is not as good as others. So yeah, I think that those are great things to talk about, great things to keep on top of mind. Regardless of what the calendar says, right? That we're coming into December, and some folks are going to throw those up as excuses, but there's always excuses. There's always reason people, right, Tim? There's always people.
Right.
I mean, my gosh, it's just sometimes people are looking for one, and no better one than it's December. The holidays are upon us. I can't make a decision. The holidays are upon us. Tim, I know you're a financial advisor and I need to sit down with you and make a plan. But you know what? It's October. The holidays are right around the corner. Let's just push that off to January. January's a new year. Let's just push that off. You hear a lot of that, don't you, Tim?
Yeah. And so I agree completely with you. Everybody always has an excuse. And really where it gets hard is for the commission salesperson or people who are counting on, I'm going to say clients, the service based. I mean, retail might have it a little bit easier because that's when things pick up if they're selling things that people might buy for Christmas, right? Or something along those lines. But any of the service oriented type businesses or relationship type businesses, people they claim they want to back off. They want to push away. And so what that's done is psychologically create this rut for any of those that are in those businesses. And they just presume that nobody wants to talk about what they have to talk about. Right. And that's what I've seen on my end. And I've experienced that, something that I thought was important. And by the way, audience, Feel free to comment or ask questions anytime throughout the program. We'd love to hear from you, even if you're listening. So just let us know if you're here. But wrapping our pipes, it might sound silly when you're talking about this type of a business, but you know, on that, I would say keep your warm leads warm. And you're right, Jim. This is stuff that we should be doing all along. It's part of that process. And if you just keep doing this persistently and consistently, right, as Zig Ziglar would say, then you should come out okay and you should flatten out some of those highs and lows. But we know that we don't know exactly when the season will change. We just know that the season will change. And so just in trying to prepare for that, wrap your pipes, and let's just make sure that we are keeping our warm leads warm. We stay in contact with those people. But if we have any hot leads, right, that we think we probably should be able to do something by the end of the year. You've got November and December, and mentally they may be ready to push back. So I would say go ahead and jump in there if you can. But what are your thoughts?
Well, there's a couple of things. The first, I was on the phone this morning with someone, and Jim, in this part of the country, business slows down in November, December. I said, okay. I said, how long have you been in that type of business? 40 years. 40 years. Okay. That's a long time. And does it slow down every single year at this time of year? Every single year at this time of year. And so, I thought to myself, I said, well, I can't chuckle. I can't laugh at the poor guy, right? If he's telling me all this, and I'm thinking, is he hearing himself say this? Tim, again, I know your background, and, you wouldn't go down to the local co-op and run across your buddy who has a beet farm, and he grows beets every year, and every year the beets need to be taken out of the ground the same time every year. He doesn't walk up to you and say, Tim, man, 27th year of being a beet farmer, and I got to get them beets out of the ground next month. He's not going to be surprised by that. That's
right.
That's called the cycle of his life. He knows that,
right.
No different than the farmers can be like, oh my gosh, I got to get that. I got to sow that crop next week. It's caught me off guard. I'm surprised. But yet those of us in sales, those of us who have we're not beet farmers. We don't grow corn, right? But we have a crop, and we know that if every single November and December the sales cycle takes a dive, why do we act surprised? Why do we act unprepared?
Right.
Like you said, maybe November, December is that time. We always talk about, man, it's time to pick up the low-hanging fruit. Let's get the low-hanging fruit. Let's get the low-hanging fruit. November, December comes around, there's no more low-hanging fruit. So do we have a plan in place to say, maybe November's that time to work on that long cycle client? That one that you've been saying, oh man, I tell you, it's going to take a long time to reel that one in. That's going to be a long road to hoe. I'm going to have to climb all the way to the top of the tree to get that piece of fruit. Maybe now's that time. Maybe now's that time to work on that client that needs a little more understanding and explanations of your good and service. So, and so much of that is mindset. So much of that is realizing that, now it's time to put in those longer hours. Now it's time to, what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks? Totally revamping our website, totally revamping our marketing, even working on a new logo.
All right.
And those are things that you tell people, man, wouldn't it be great to, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to do that. I can't do that. I could never find the time to sit down and redo my whole website. Now it's the perfect time to do that, because in our industry, this traditionally is an extremely busy time for our licensees. But when they get really, really, really busy, that's usually not the time that they're going to be placing lots of orders or buying new territories or making big buy decisions to join our organization. So now's a perfect time to work on that. So, I get surprised every time when someone tells me they're surprised. Unless they just started 6 months ago, right? Somebody called you up and said, I just got into financial advisory business 6 months ago, and it seems really slow right now. And you'll chuckle, well, yeah. Financial advisory business sometimes can slow down right before the turn of the year. People getting ready for the new fiscal year. They might not be, but it shouldn't be surprising to those that have been doing something for a while. These seasons should be old hat at this point.
Well, and they should see cycles and stuff like that. And you bring it back to an agricultural standpoint, we're in harvest. They should be harvesting, and so November and December, what that looks like, depending on what the crop is or anything like that. But November and December, that becomes time when you revamp your equipment, you upgrade, you replace parts, and you prepare for the next planting season. And so there's a lot to that. Looks like we've got some comments here. Let's see. Hey, George. Glad to have you join the show with us. I see we've got Haley Cotty with us as well. Y'all feel free to jump in and comment, ask questions, stuff like that. So I'm sure you have some experiences that you'd be willing to share with us. Let's see here. Back to that. Now, as far as like wrapping your, I think we've covered that pretty good. Let's talk about the next one. So dripping your faucets. Now I had in mind with this drip campaigns, you want to maintain or establish these, right? So Jim, what do y'all do for drip campaigns?
Well, again, this time of year, we know that probably, now you never count yourself out, right, of a game, but probably this is going to be a slower time for certain channels of our business. There is no point in going to a bunch of conventions. You know what? Forget COVID-19. Let's talk about normal life. Right now, we would not be going to a bunch of conventions to try and convince people to sign on a dotted line to make that big upfront investment. Well, it's not that big. It's actually pretty surprising how easy it is to get involved with us, Tim. But there is an investment that, again, people don't like doing that right now in our industry because of the opposite reason, they're actually so busy. They're actually so active out there swinging that blade, trying to bring in that harvest, that it's really hard to get them to make a decision like that. Surprisingly enough, we have done that. But you know what? We figured out a good thing to do would let people know that, investing in this sort of thing is a perfect write-off. You might be coming to the end of your year and you need to write off some income. You need to reinvest in your organization, and buying a license to operate, that is a perfect write-off. That is an investment in your company, right? So that's what we do. We don't spend big money on stuff that we know is probably going to frustrate us, and that's from experience. We've done that in the past, but you're absolutely correct. We do stuff like simple things like, we have a small amount, and I mean a small amount, a few $100s that we spend on Facebook. Just a few $100s, just to kind of reposition our posts and make sure they kind of stay current. We do stay in touch with our licensees, maybe not as rapidly and as feverishly as we do other times a year, because we know, not that that's wasting money, but those are funds that are probably not going to see the return they would come the first of the year. Come the first of the year, now it's time for people to start buying again. It's time, like you say, it's springtime. They need to start investing in their business. So, we do that as well. Absolutely.
Right. And Gerald, thank you for your comment. He seems to be already getting something out of it there. So back to this. Now, I did a training this morning where I broke down referral generation into an equation. And I think it really can come into play. You can really implement this even in November and December to go ahead and set up your campaigns for the spring. for January, like your planting season, right? But what we're doing is we're actually continuing to plant. It's kind of like some of these cattle producers, they actually plant a winter grass as a ground cover to keep the cattle eating, and so they have fresh grass even through the winter, and then they come back with their spring grasses after that. So that's what this kind of does. But I wanted to share this with our audience real quick. So what this looks like is I've got my uh, get our stuff out of the way here. There we go.
All
So
right.
on referral generation, a lot of people want to know, how in the world do you formalize referral generation, and how can we apply that to us? So speed of trust times trusting relationships is what that looks like. So I'll go into detail here real quick, and keep this in mind when we're talking about drip campaigns, dripping your faucets, even holiday parties or anything like that. Keep that in mind, because this is where you're going to apply that. So the speed of trust is relational trust times the relational rate. You're saying, oh my gosh, Tim, what does that even mean? Well, I'll go over it. So relational trust is relational knowledge plus the depth of conversation. So relational knowledge would be like the typical superficial things you hear, but you want to know those things, those general things about them. But if you can add to the depth of the conversation, you get that trust based on that relationship, or based on that conversation. And so then if we multiply that time the relational rate, that's how many times you're having good quality conversations. So if we can multiply those two, depth plus how many times you're having good, deep conversations, you can actually accelerate that. Get rid of this banner real quick. You can accelerate that through one-on-one conversations. Well, where do you have one-on-one conversations? You can have those at events, at networking events, at Christmas parties, at holiday events. You can have those on social media. You can replicate that over time and make that a positive experience, even during this quote unquote downtime during your winter, right? So the trusting relationship part of that is the number of people that trust you, but you want to take and plug those number of people that trust you in, go deep with them, but then spread that across the people, spread your depth of relationship across people you already have good relationships with. So for instance, if I have a great relationship with Jim, I'm going to introduce Jim to as many people as I can that I think would be strategic connections for him, right? So the faster you can create trusting relationships among those individuals who already trust you, the faster you become their primary resource for their future relationships and information. So that's how we grow growth hack influence. But it's accelerated by building a sense of community. So again, you can create that community, you can have that community by going out and going to these events. And that kind of gets into our other topic here, blanketing your market territory. And so, see, here we are. It looks like we had a comment here. Oh, hey, BizFizz is joining us. So glad to have you on with us. But blanketing your market territory, just covering ground, covering ground, go be the blanket to a lot of the relationships you already have. And yeah, they might not be out in the cold, but at least if we can go maintain our warm leads and go be with those, even our customers, our clients, our peers, our strategic referral partners, if we can go engage with them at whatever events they're already going to me, that's blanketing your market. What do you think, Jim?
Absolutely. And again, it's about sometimes being consciously aware of the season you're in and taking full advantage of it. We've all heard that. This morning I was on a call and someone said there was a task that person, we assigned goals in this call that I'm on, and that we're accountable for these goals. And that person said, I did not have time to get to that. And I corrected him. I said, that is not allowable in our group. You can never say I did not have time. I said, my friend, you have the exact same amount of time that I do. I have the exact same amount of time today that you do, Tim. No one gets a short change of time. There is no time monster sneaking around, coming up behind people and stealing 2 hours from them. That's right. We all have the same amount of time. What you can say in the group is you can say, of the time that I had, I chose not to work on that. I chose not to work on that, right? And so be aware of the time that you're in. Again, I've shared on this call before, as all good salespeople at some point in your life, you surely should have experience selling automobiles. Selling automobiles is you can get a PhD in personal relationships selling automobiles. So I did try that. I did sell automobiles, and there was a gentleman there who was a fantastic. He was the best salesman we had in the whole dealership. Okay, I'll never forget it. He sold me a car. I was working at the dealership and he sold me a car. I said, man, that's one way to make a living. You hire people and sell them cars and fire them. No, he sold me a car. And his name, he's passed away now. And his name, Mr. Dugas. Mr. Dugas. Yes, this was in Louisiana. His name was Mr. Dugas. And Mr. Dugas was fantastic. So we had a local high school football team, as most small towns do, right? And he was their number one fan. He was at their pep rallies. Neat thing about the car business, car salesman, on an afternoon, on a Thursday afternoon at 2:00, there might not be nothing going on. So he would go to the high school and he'd go to the pep rallies, the big pep rallies they'd have in the stands. And he'd show up there dressed all, and the colors were blue and white. He drew from head to toe dressed in blue and white. And he would throw out favors at the pep rally. He would throw out business cards. Woohoo! I mean, everybody knew him, right? He was like the mascot for the football team. They didn't have one. He was it. And one day I said, Mr. Dugas, I says, you obviously graduated from that high school. I mean, you're like right. You're so proud of, they put his name on the wall there in the gym. He leaned over to me and says, Jim, I'm a high school dropout. I didn't graduate high school. He said, I dropped out of that school when I was in the 10th grade. But yet if you walked up to any alumni of that high school, they knew his name. Okay. Because he understood. Same thing, car buying, car business gets kind of crazy right about now. You have people that are going ahead and buying a car, the new model year that, they purposely do that. Every wonder why. Why do they come out with new model years in September? That's a weird time. Why not come out in January? Right? Well, they purposely did that to try and boost sales during the winter, because winter is kind of a slow period, right? And then when people got their income tax in February and March, man, it would get busy again. But Mr. Dugas found out that if he got really active at this time of year in the community, go to all the football games, go to all the Christmas party. This man, they knew him at the Catholic church. They knew him at the Baptist church. They knew him at the Pentecostal church. He went to every Christmas party every church ever had, every Christmas parade. He was the marshal of the town Christmas parade. He was out there. He was doing just what you said. Man, you talk about a blanket. This guy was a blanket, a pillow, the sheets, the comforter. He was everything. I mean, he had that whole town wrapped up. And my wife was watching. She giggled because she remembers the day I come home from car salesmanship, driving a new car. And she said, oh, did you bought a car? No, I was sold a car. This guy was fantastic. And I learned a lot from him. But I love how you put that. Now it's time to blanket your market. And I know what everybody's thinking and saying, Jim, they're not having Christmas parties this year. We're not talking about this year. Forget this year if you got to forget this year. Just this is the stuff that is true no matter what. If they're having a virtual Christmas party, show up. If people are not having their Christmas parties like they normally have, you know what there is? There is a void of joy in their life. There's a void of joy. If in my neighborhood where I live right now, they're all over the West Coast. The neighborhood I live in is known for having the biggest Halloween celebration. People come from states away to come see this one street. And the news has already been out there filming it. Well, they've already told them you can't do door to door this year. No door to door. So that's going to be affected. But people are doing the best they can with where they're at, right? And so I thought to myself, I said, what we're going to do is we're going to. I'm hosting a party at my house this Friday. We're having a bunch of people over, people that I want to do trade with here in town, and we're going to walk up and down the street. So my party is not going to be closed up in a house. It's going to be out. I'm adapting. That's what you got to do right now. If things are shut down and they're not having the parties they're normally having, well, look at that as a way to step in and be that joy, bring that holiday spirit to them, even if it's just one-on-one, and get out there and blanket that community. Right now, man, Tim, what does the world need right now? We all need blankets. We all want warm and happiness and joy. That's what a good blanket does to you, right? It makes you feel toasty and warm. And so I think that's brilliant. Blanket your market. That's a great saying. People should write that down on a piece of paper and tape it to their rearview mirror in the car. Blanket your market.
Well, and that kind of ties into, because the blanket being the spread, but being the heat source for that as well. So you want to draw them in with your internal joy. Light the fire, right? You be the, you growing up like I did, everybody gathered around the fireplace, in the winter. And sometimes, granted, everybody had central heat, but, you tried to keep the electric bills down as much as you could, but the fireplace was the gathering place, right? Everybody stood around there and talked around there and things like that. Some of them, it was a potbelly stove or something like that. For us, it was a fireplace. And so that's kind of what we want to make ourselves in whatever our market is, right? That fireplace where everybody comes to talk. Now, to me, the idea of blanketing was creating warmth, but you going out and covering those people. But, on the idea of being the heat source, if you've got so much internal joy or positivity or whatever it is, they'll be drawn to you. They will want to come near you and speak to you and just be with you. And they'll want to know who so you can actually draw them in. But if you're caught up in the election, if you're caught up in the social distancing and things like that, and that is what your speech is, and that's what you're posting about all the time and things like that. We've talked about it on calls before. That creates a distance. It creates a barrier, and there's a little bit of a coldness to that, right?
Absolutely. And, that's, again, we've talked on that before. We don't need to touch on that again. It is the holiday season. Maybe they're not as big this year as they were in the past, but yes, the whole, like your grandma told you, when you go to a birthday party, Tim, don't talk about religion, politics, or the host food. Just don't bring stuff like that up. Don't just talk about anything but that. Okay. Be pleasant, be complimentary, right? Compliment people, be that kind of person that somebody wants to be at that party. Man, I tell you, I used to get a chuckle, you go to these networking meetings or these, again, this time of year, when I was in relationship marketing in Nashville, Tennessee, starting now until January, I'd have probably 3 or 4 parties a week that I was going to. This party and that party and that party and this party. And I got so many referral sources that I was such a welcome member to their company. They would invite me to their company Christmas party, right?
Oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah.
I just had all these parties to go to. And I just used to just make me chuckle. You go to one of these parties and, and everybody's standing there and just standing there looking at each other. It's like a standoff, right? Everybody just looking, and some guy would lean over. Man, this party's dead. Oh, man, I'm gonna sneak out of here. This party's dead. I thought to myself, yeah, maybe if you leave, it'll get better. You know what I mean? People go to these events and they complain about them. Networking event. Tim, how many times you been in a networking event? Oh, this ain't no good. This place dead. You can't get no good leads out of here. Everybody around here, oh, this is just complaining and complaining.
Right.
I have been to parties before or gatherings or whatever it was, And if it's like that, if it seems a little bit dead, then maybe it needs to be livened up. Maybe there needs to be that person, instead of complaining and bringing up all the negativity that's going on right there. Be that person that steps forward and says, "Hey, everybody, how about let's play a game? Let's do something. Let's interact. I don't know you. Do you know me? Hey, let's play an introduction game, right? Here, I got a pocket full of nickels. I got a pocket full of nickels. Everybody get a nickel, and whatever year's on that nickel, tell them the one good thing you know about that year. I mean, there's 1,000 games you can play, right? And if you do that, if you become that source of heat, okay, you're exactly correct. People will seek you out. Man, I tell you, Tim. So we had this one party I was invited to. It was a flooring store, big flooring store in Nashville. They invited me to this party, and guess what it was? The ugly sweater party, right?
Okay.
Ugly sweater party. Well, now you can go to Walmart and buy ugly sweaters. Used to be an ugly sweater was an accident. It didn't start off as an ugly sweater. It was an accident, right? Someone said, "Oh my God." Well, now you can buy them. Well, back when you couldn't buy them. Yeah, there was an accident. Tim, I got a big green sweater. I covered it with glitter and bows and lights, those battery-powered Christmas lights. I had a stocking on the front of it with a teddy bear stuck inside of it, and his nose was red and lit up like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And when you lit up his nose, it jingled. Ding, 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 did a little Christmas jingle. I won the ugly Christmas sweater party, right? I mean, be that heat element, be that source of when people go, "Man, you remember that year Jim Bardwell wore that sweater that just blew everybody? No one even came close," right? That's a decision you have to make. You have to make a decision to be that and get out in that community and do that.
And you do have to commit before you go. It's hard to do it on the spot.
That's right. That's right. You make that commitment that's what you're going to do. Maybe we should challenge all of our folks that have graced us with their live being on the call with us. We certainly appreciate that, man. It makes the call, Tim. Let's be honest with them. It makes the call more fun. It makes the call fun for us. Knowing that someone's just there listening with us, especially when they give us those wonderful comments. Let's just challenge everybody. Well, hello there. Hi there. Let's challenge everybody. How about this? Between now and next week's call, why don't we challenge everybody, and people even listen later on in the week? Let's see if they can go out there into their communities and be a heat source. And what a cool thing. Maybe we can ask people to do this, Tim. What if we did this? What if we asked them to comment? They can go in later in the week, or they can go in next week and comment on the show and say, and give us an example of them going out there and bringing the heat, right? Whatever.
Yep, I want to hear it.
Yeah, I don't care if it's one-on-one. And Tim, you know what? Me and you we'll be true to it. We'll next week we will be owed an example of us bringing the heat.
There we go. There we go. So in the comments, what I hope to see is they comment on this show. So you can go back and listen to it or just comment in it, but go back and comment in this show and tell us your story. That's what I want to see.
Yeah,
I want to see the stories.
Yep, that would be awesome. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about when you do something like that. We don't know who's watching us. We don't know who's paying attention. It's like sometimes, a young person will be watching you and they'll learn from you. You don't even know you're teaching. You don't realize that you become the teacher. Our community's watching us. People that we perhaps want to do trade with, they're watching us. People want to get next to and be associated with people that are bringing the heat, because deep down inside, we know that is success. Mm-hmm. What does success look like? Successful people have energy around them. They have excitement around them. They attract attention. People notice them, right? And when you bring that to an environment, when you bring that to a community, but when you bring that to a party, when you bring that to a meeting, one-on-one, even one-on-one, right? You want to make sure that person leaves that meeting and says, "Man, Tim was on fire. Tim's excited about this year, man. He's not putting his head down and woe is me. No, he's talking about how he's going to finish the year strong. Can't wait for 2021. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. We're going to grow. That's what people want to be around.
Here's another challenge for it, and two things here. So here we are. We have a live stream show, and people say y'all reach a bunch of people, stuff like that. And for listeners, there are days we only have maybe 3 that are catching us at this time slot. But I look up at the end of, here we are on a Monday. I might look up on a Tuesday and we've had 1,500, or something like that. So you never know who is watching. So you might only feel like 3 are watching, but you're making an impact on 1,500. Okay. So it's bigger than what you think. Also, here's another part of the challenge of what Jim was saying. If you become that heat source and you do it one time, people notice if you stop.
Well,
so there has to be,
because it's just like being in a cold cabin up on the hill. Somebody snuffs out that fire. Within a few minutes, people start looking around. What happened? Something happened. Somebody done turned off the heat. And here's one other thing I want to add to this, Tim. So I was one time I went to, and it was a sad event. It was a candlelight vigil. And it was planned to be outdoors, but unfortunately a big rainstorm came in, and it was raining really heavy. Okay. And this was down in Houston, Texas. And man, we get some rainstorms down there, right, Tim? I mean, it rained for 4 or 5 hours. I mean, right. We can't very well have a candlelight visual out in a Houston gully washer. So we had to go inside. And the place that we went inside, so many people had showed up for this. They didn't want to turn anybody away. So we were packed in there like sardines. I mean, we was packed, Tim, right?
Yeah.
Well, we all started lighting those candles.
You gotta hold them real high.
Now, have you ever been to a candlelight visual? They little bitty candles. They're only about that tall. Little white candles. And they got a little piece of not styrofoam, little metal. They actually specifically made for that, little candles, right? And you got a little handle you hold on to it. Everybody starts lighting these candles. And we're in this room. And there was a lot of them. Now, individually, if somebody would have lit that candle, never would have affected you wouldn't be able to tell. It wouldn't have made a difference as far as the atmosphere of that room, that one little candle. Maybe 10 candles, same thing. Maybe no big. I tell you what, it got so hot in there so quick from all of those. And I mean, it was just maybe 150, maybe 175 people. Tim, it got so hot in there so quick from all of those little candles. I mean, people were, we need to go ahead and say a prayer and blow these candles out because it's getting hot in here, right? And so that's an analogy to if you want to go out there and you think, well, what difference am I going to make, Jim? If I go to the networking meeting and everybody is right, and I go in there and I try and be that heat source and I try and I try and I try. Sometimes it's not you by yourself, but you and maybe one other person starts being that way, and then another person starts being that way, and next thing you know, you can have an effect that can domino and end up with what you end up with. I love that your background, your story with chambers of commerce, how you can go into a dead, dull chamber, and you can light it on fire. You can put energy into that chamber of commerce, and before long, you're saying, well, this chamber of commerce ain't working. I ain't getting nothing out of it. No referrals. Everybody in there. No one wants to be there. Well, turn it around. Go in there, and it's contagious, is what I'm saying. That idea that I'm going to be that source of light, of energy, is contagious, and people will start not only when they become attracted to you. I know that when you and I get on this call, my energy level goes up. And this is virtual. When I'm virtually with you, Tim, my energy level goes up, right? So imagine if you and I were physically together. Yeah. And so imagine if people, you know, if they will come together, if they will, those energy levels will go up.
Yep, I agree with that. And see, within our peer advisory program, we teach them to hunt in packs, move as a team. So they actually go to those events together with their fire going. And so they actually light rooms on fire. So that's how we've trained them to operate and move. But then when you've got all of them in there at one time, it's a different place.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, I appreciate everyone joining us today. Any questions or comments? We want you to feel free to continue the conversation. Again, we want to hear your stories of how you're bringing the heat, being the heat source. Okay, bringing the heat. Let's say,
That's right.
And we want you to add that in the comments because we want to hear your story. And another thing I'm going to do for those who hear the recorded version, I want to include a cheat sheet for that referral generation equation and how to bring about that referral generation. So I'll make it easier for you. But anyway, make sure you join us next Monday at 2:00, and we'll be discussing more relationship marketing strategies on how we can help you grow your business. But for now, I want to bring our sponsorships up. So, Jim, would you tell us a little bit about Fiber Protector America?
I sure will, Tim. Thank you so much. So again, I'm Jim Bardwell. I serve as the Director of Sales, Marketing, and Education for Fiber Protector America. And Tim, what we do is we are exclusively the folks that bring the world's most technologically advanced, environmentally friendly protection system to this wonderful country. And we distribute it all over the country through a group of licensed applicators. And I tell you, we have been affected by this COVID, but it's also shown me that by having an exclusive product in your territory, see, that's what's unique about Fiber Protector America. We make exclusive relationships. You know, you've met someone there in the Dallas area, and that person has a protected relationship in that Dallas market. So if anybody listening to this wants to learn more about Fiber Protector, wants to learn more about our licensing program and how they can take advantage of some of these things I talk about every week, Tim, they can go to our website, which is initials only, FP, like Frank Paul, FP America, the word America, fpamerica.com. That's fpamerica.com. And you know what? I'm one of those crazy people. I'll give out my email over the airwaves here. You ready, Tim? It's
Ready.
Jim at fpamerica.com. Jim at fpamerica.com. Just reach out to me and I gladly will give you more information.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Jim. And we thank Fiber Protector America for allowing you the time to be on the show with us. And I am with 3 Million Percent. 3 Million Percent is a peer advisory program where we help businesses grow through our structured format. And so we have curriculum where we teach them strategies and tactics to be able to grow their influence within their communities to gain market leadership. So we do that through having our business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals implement through these peer advisory groups because they share with each other their victories, their challenges, and their experiences. And so they help one another implement the strategies and tactics they've learned, and they move as a team and help one another grow. So I'll include information on that too. You can find more information on that at number 3, and then spell out millionpercent.com, or you can reach me at tim@3millionpercent.com, and we look forward to speaking with you. So make sure you join us next week on Monday at 2:00 for the next I Must Ask You a Question show. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye, everybody.